Welcome back to another black metal collection update here on the Noctilucant channel. Wait a minute, that's not right.
Welcome back to another black metal collection update on the Noctilucant channel.
Now you might ask yourself, black metal reviews on a dark ambient channel. Well, it's a bit like this. Back in the late 90s, I discovered black metal, and if I hadn't discovered black metal, I wouldn't have discovered dark ambient. Back in the day, one of the first black metal bands I got into was Emperor. As many of you probably know, one of Emperor's original members was Mortis, and after Mortis was booted from the band, he created a solo project called Mortis. Once solo, Mortis went for a more synthesized and dark medieval style of music. This style of music nowadays we commonly call dungeon synth, but back in the day, it was labeled dark dungeon music or dark ambient music. Even though I haven't really enjoyed everything Mortis released over the years, I definitely love everything he did in the 90s, and for that I'm eternally grateful to him. And it's pretty safe to say that had I not gotten to Emperor and black metal, and had I not gotten to Mortis, I probably would have never gotten to dark ambient music. So I have eternal respect for those artists and their influence they had in my life, and for what it's worth, I think discovering all this dark music made my life a better life. So that is at least one reason to review black metal albums here on the Noctilucant channel, here and there. Even though black metal are two polar opposites and two extreme beasts, there's a lot of similarities. Black metal bands have often had dark ambient characteristics in the intros, outros, or just the backing atmospheres in their chaotic music. Of course, the themes expressed in both styles of music are similar too. You can find occult themes, paganism, depression, darkness, and just rage of all kinds of different shapes and varieties in both forms of music. Not only that, I'm pretty sure most dark ambient fans like black metal. Not all of them do, but what the hell, right? Something different for this channel. So if you're not into black metal, I apologize in advance, but you know what? Give it a chance, you might like it. So as it goes with pretty much all forms of music I listen to, I get moods where I really prefer a certain genre of music. From January to February of this year, it snowed a lot and it was very cold here in my homeland. I bought a lot of albums, and it's about time I start sharing some of those ones. Now this first one I'm going to talk about, it was a bit of an oldie, and it was released back in 1996, and his Behemoth is Grom. Behemoth is a long-running project from Gdańsk, Poland. The band was formed in 1991 by Adam Darski, the 14-year-old who later christened himself Nergal. Throughout the years, Nergal has been the driving force and main member of Behemoth. In their earliest of days, they played very Nordic-influenced black metal. Bands like Emperor, Immortal, and Darkthrone are all pretty obvious influences. However, by the time they got to their first album, they started to inject more of a pagan and much more elaborate sound to their otherwise raw black metal. Their first album, Soventibus, Storming Near the Baltic, had a bit more, I guess, Eastern European sound, Baltic, and it had more lyrics centered around paganism. Now by the time they got to Grom, they had definitely started to refine their sound and, as it goes, find their own sound. Grom is an interesting album because it shows a band growing and developing and going on to the next thing. The first four albums from Behemoth in general are quite different from each other, although you can still kind of hear the same band. By the time they would get to their fourth album, which is called Satanica, they would start to show much more of a death metal influence in their music, and pretty much from that point on, they would gradually become more and more death metal, even though throughout the years they've always been labeled as a black death metal band. I've never quite understood that, but as far as I'm concerned, these guys have been a death metal band for at least 20 years now. However, back on Grom, they were undoubtedly still playing pure pagan black metal. Grom is an interesting record and definitely a progression from their first album. On this record, the production is much cleaner, you can find much more melodic guitars, there's some female vocals, there's some weird male chanting vocals, and there's just, you can just definitely tell it's a band going through some changes. This is sort of a lost gem in their discography, often overlooked, and nowadays it's really just their later period stuff from 2000 onwards that gets all the attention. I've noticed that most of their old black metal stuff is not on Spotify and other streaming networks, which tells me that the band has probably disowned their black metal past. But, whatever, you can go follow Nergal on Instagram and you can watch him geeking out over Slipknot now, so yeah, there's that. This one for me is quite a banger of an album. I like this a lot. It's also the album that I sort of missed on this band. I've been listening to Behemoth for about 20 years now, actually starting with the Satanic album I mentioned earlier. When I started to go backwards, I found that I really enjoyed the black metal stuff as opposed to the death metal stuff. But this is the album I just missed out on. I don't know if I just couldn't track it down back in the day or what, but I never heard this album until now. So basically, if you like raw black metal with some really nice melodic touches, ample amount of keyboards, some occasional female vocals, and some pretty great lead vocals, you're definitely going to enjoy Grom. A lot of what you hear in this album is very reminiscent of what was going on in the black metal scene in the mid-90s. There's no clear-cut favorite on this album, but goddamn, songs like The Dark Fortress or Spellcraft and Heathendom are just really solid black metal songs. Well then, the album cover, shall we? So on the front cover we have, well, we can see a thunderbolt in the distance, and I have of course seen a digital scan of this album cover before, and for years I thought it was a banjo laying against a tree, but it turns out it's a spear and a shield, not a banjo. On the back cover you can see the track listing and a picture of the band. CD has some more fantasy-like artwork on it. Booklet with lyrics and more photos and artwork. The Polish countryside, no doubt. More photos of the 3 band members. And yet again, more artwork and photography with something or another wrote in Polish, which I don't understand. Yeah, super cool album, Grom here, definitely worth picking up, and I should point out here that this is also an original pressing, which I felt pretty fortunate to get, and I paid only $15 for that, so that's pretty awesome, because sometimes these old mid-90s black metal records go for a lot more than 15 bucks.
Cosmic source of the mind, reflection of wisdom, power of dark side.
One more, and this is Pagan Hellfire and their album On the Path to Triumph. Pagan Hellfire is the long-running project of Incarnatus from Nova Scotia, Canada. Pagan Hellfire has been going since 1995 and has a slew of demos, EPs, splits, and full-length albums behind him at this point. Personally, I first came across this project about 20 years ago on the Burzum tribute called Visions. I feel like back then I had meant to buy something from this project, but it just slipped past me, and god damn it, that was a mistake. Pagan Hellfire plays what I would say is just true, straightforward black metal. Influences are almost certainly stuff like Burzum, Dark Throne, and Judas Iscariot. And yet, Pagan Hellfire doesn't sound exactly like those projects. Pagan Hellfire also reminds me of bands from the Finnish black metal scene like Horna or Sargeist. Whatever the influence may be, Pagan Hellfire absolutely delivers on this album. This is black metal in its purest form, just guitars, bass, drums, and raspy, hate-filled vocals. Now, bands of this style usually write shorter albums in like the 30 to 40 minute range, but On the Path to Triumph clocks in 50 minutes. Now, if you have any knowledge of this style, you'd probably think, now this is probably gonna have some lagging moments, but let me tell you, this is one fucking awesome album. I think what makes this album great is that it has the framework of a classic raw black metal band, but there's just certain dynamics that elevate it to the next level. The music has just fantastic riffs, and that's just one of the things I love about black metal so much. The riffs are catchy, melodic, and there's even some occasional solos here and there. Incarnatus' drum work is also just a bit above the average raw black metal drummer. With his drumming you can find a lot of interesting drum rolls, fills, and great cymbal work, and it really holds the whole album together. The opener, Only Death's Call, is probably my favorite song on the album. Although it quite a bit slow, it eventually picks up in speed and really goes through this hate-filled moments and just extremely it's such a fucking awesome song. The raw buzzing guitars and just the atmosphere of this song is immense, and the hate-filled delivery of Incarnatus' vocals are just immense. And like I said before, 50 minutes of this style of music is usually a bit too much, but god damn it, there's just so many good riffs and just so many just like little dynamics this album just make it an absolutely triumphant album. The album cover then. So as it goes with raw black metal bands, we have a pretty simple aesthetic here. The front cover and the back cover with the track listing on it. Pretty simple, no lyrics, not much, nothing really too grandiose or just, simple, and that's just the way it goes with raw black metal bands. So if you were into stuff like Burzum, Dark Throne, Judas Iscariot, Folkvang, Clandestine Blaze, Sargeist, it's a pretty good chance you're gonna love this record. That is Pagan Hellfire and their album, On the Path to Tread. Thank you for joining me for this black metal collection update here on the Noctilucant channel. I know it's something different, but I think if you give black metal a chance, you'll see similar characteristics that you can find in dark ambient music. And if you cannot find those characteristics or similar traits, you're still gonna discover some fucking awesome music. So as always, if you enjoy what you see in this channel, remember to like, share, comment, repost, and subscribe to this channel. So until the next collection update, be it black metal, dungeon synth, or dark ambient, be cool to each other and skull.